Okay, thank you. If you guys could quickly take your seats so we could get this started. If you could squish all the way in so there's no open spots, that would be most fantastic. All right, if we could have you seated with your voices off, please. We're going to get this started. Thank you. You guys are awesome.
Students and staff, friends, community members, veterans that are joining us today, welcome to our assembly today. Students, I just want to remind all of you that this is a very special assembly in which I want to remind all of you guys to be respectful, because this is a very special assembly that we have here today. So please rise and remain silent for the presentation of the flag. Also, please remain standing while the Fort Band performs the national anthem. You may be seated. Right now, I would like to just take a brief moment to thank and to honor all those that serve honorably in the military, acknowledging the contribution that each of you have made to our national security. As a second-generation immigrant, I know that I am eternally grateful for their service. This nation has embraced me as a son of America, and I am grateful for that. And I know that my parents are grateful, and my kids are grateful, and future generations will be grateful for that, for those sacrifices that have been made in honor for our democracy, safety, and so I'm just very grateful for that. In our school, we have 3 staff members who have served this country in the military. We have Kerry Craig, who served in the U.S. Navy. If he's present, maybe he can stand. Ms. Jenny Power, she served in the U.S. Army. And then our last one is Heather Show. She served in the U.S. Air Force. Thank you for your service and dedication to the United States of America. At our school, we continue a great tradition today by inviting veterans from our community to celebrate Veterans Day with us. Thank you for joining us at our assembly and for serving our country. It is customary at Veterans Day events for bands to perform the Armed Forces medley. As the 4-band plays, we invite veterans and family of veterans to please stand and represent their military branch when their song is played. The United States Marines Corps. The United States Army. The United States Coast Guard. The United States Air Force. United States Navy. United States Navy. As we transition in our program, we're going to have the orchestra come to the stage, and then the band is going to be dismissed the stage. As we transition, I want all of us to actually think and reflect about how your life has been impacted by those that have served in the armed forces. So as we transition, let's just think quietly while we transition, and then we'll continue with the program.
What? We're dropping this down, and then you guys can switch seats. Yeah. And John Hughes did something to my laptop in LA. John Hughes, are you in the building? My okay, so I had a really cool slide deck to show you. He did something to my screen and now it's frozen. Oh, don't cancel. Oh, there we go. Okay, my family doesn't take very good pictures. My son Ethan graduated from that school down the street in 2017. To celebrate that milestone, we went to the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and Germany for 2 weeks. It was an incredible trip, and the unexpected highlight was visiting Ypres in Belgium. We stayed at this old hotel outside of town across the street from a World War I battlefield. On the hotel grounds, you could walk on a path through sheep grazing land. We were cautioned before entering the grazing land because unexploded mines could be in the area, and the hotel didn't want the guests to blow themselves up. It was a little eerie, but since the sheep were all still alive, we took our chances and lived to tell. Ypres is a popular destination for European school trips because of the rich World War history. The place was swarming with students in their school uniforms, and there's a museum dedicated to World War I. It's dark and somber and really well done. I've been to a lot of museums. I'm not a museum person. This is a cool place. There are cemeteries dedicated to fallen soldiers from the Allied forces, rows and rows of tombstones honoring those who died to protect democracy. I'm Canadian, and so this is kind of a big deal for the Commonwealth troops. St. George's Memorial Church was finished in 1929. It was built to commemorate over 500,000 British and Commonwealth troops who died in one of 3 battles in Ypres. The needlepoint cushions honor different regiments, and specific seats are dedicated to those who were lost in battle. The sign up in the top right shows that there were 147 students from one school that died. And then there's the Mining Gate. And Fraser's going to say, oh, there she goes. Now she's going to start crying again. All right, so during the Great War, or World War I, hundreds of thousands of men passed through this gate on their way to battle. And it honors the lives of men who died from Australia, Canada, India, South Africa, and the UK. The names of over 54,000 soldiers who died in battle and who were never formally buried are listed inside the arches of this gate. It's engraved in stone, and it's pretty powerful. Every night at 8 p.m., traffic stops, and buglers play the last call. It has been happening every night since July 1928. Student groups and extended family members have the opportunity to lay poppy wreaths around the mining gate. I'm sure I have Canadian ancestors who fought in World War I, but I'm not aware of any. Despite this, I sobbed while watching the procession, like tears were running down my face, snot was coming out of my nose. It was a look. After soaking in this history of this little town, my emotions took over. It really hit me that so many brave men and women put their lives on hold to fight in the name of democracy. They sacrificed everything, including their lives. When we took this trip in 2017, Ethan was heading off to UW to study business and Spanish with the goal of working in a Spanish-speaking country after graduation. I didn't realize that his trajectory would change or that he'd get accepted into officer candidate school or need to survive First Friday or endure prisoner of war training. I didn't realize he'd be flying in a fighter jet or shooting the bad guys. I didn't realize that my kid, the center of my universe, could die defending democracy. I didn't realize that we could go weeks or months without any form of formal communication. I didn't realize that I would be looking at world events through a very different lens because my son and his friends are now part of these world events. So those that serve and their families sacrifice a lot for this country. Our guest speaker today has served this country for almost 20 years. Over 20 years if you include his 4 years of ROTC at university. Lieutenant Colonel John A. Scott graduated from Assumption University in Worcester, Massachusetts, and received his commission from Worcester Polytechnic Institute, ROTC, in 2006. Lieutenant Colonel Scott served multiple tours in the Middle East, including as a Special Forces Operational Detachment Alpha Commander and at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Upon returning to the States, he held some leadership positions at training facilities and currently commands the Portland Pacific Recruitment Battalion here in the Portland, Vancouver area. Lieutenant Colonel Scott is multilingual, a Bronze Star recipient, and is pursuing a master's degree through Harvard University's Extension School. Please welcome our guest speaker, Lieutenant Colonel John A. Scott. Hi. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you so much, Fort Vancouver High. Trappers, I appreciate this. This is a great Veterans Day celebration, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So I'll try to keep this a little interactive since, this is probably new for some of you, right? Some of you don't necessarily have a connection to Veterans Day, so I want to make sure that, I'm capturing all of your attention. We can talk a little bit about what Veterans Day is and a little bit about, my Army story as well. First of all, Lieutenant Colonel John A. Scott, right? Currently, I am the commander of the Portland Pacific Army Recruiting Battalion. By trade, I'm a Special Forces officer, right, Green Beret. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I'll walk you guys a little bit through my story and how I stumbled upon this, because talking to you today feels a little ironic to me, just because I absolutely never would have guessed when I was in your seat that I'd be doing this today, and I can say that with completely truthfully. I think I saw someone with a Boston sweater walk in too, but I'm originally from Boston, Massachusetts. I've lived all over the world through the Army, and now obviously call the Pacific Northwest home with my wife Razier and my son Nolan, who is 4 months old. So yeah, that's going pretty well. Thank you, appreciate that. With that, right, it's been a lack of sleep over the last 4 months as I took command, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. I believe it was Andrea who told me that we have some Farsi speakers in the audience too, right? Some Iranian Americans. Is that true? If so, if you don't mind raising your hand, don't worry. I'm not going to test your Farsi, I promise. And maybe they're not here. I'm looking around. It's kind of dark out there too. That's okay. I think some of them are listening in. She asked me to say a few words. So, Esme manjane, ahle Boston hastam va darshare Portland zindagi mikonam va hoshfaktam va kheli mamnu. Merci. So, to all of you Farsi speakers out there, I appreciate you. And that's part of my Army story, right? Speaking languages, learning new cultures, and truly, understanding the culture and the languages of the people that we work with overseas as well. Especially within Special Forces, it's a big part of what we do. Okay, so if you look up, right, that's a little bit of my biography. But really, before I get into any of that, it really starts well before this, right? That's just my career, but I think you can't tell an Army story, any story in general, without really discussing the genesis of that story, which brings me back to when I was sitting in your shoes, right? So I was getting ready to go to college as a senior. All I knew is that I wanted to play baseball. That's it, right? So I went to Division II school and had the opportunity to make the baseball team, and had a good fall. Was our setup man going into the year, for those of you familiar with baseball terminology, and then threw out my shoulder pretty early on in the year. Now I see the Boston shirt, by the way. Hey, how you doing? And when I did that, right, I sort of had to ask myself the question of what's next. And I didn't want to be a normal college student. I knew that. I wanted to do something more. I wasn't a great student in general, to be frank with you. And I sort of stumbled upon Army ROTC. And at the time, I just knew that I wanted to be part of a team and be able to take myself outside my comfort zone, which truthfully I probably hadn't done up until that point. And next thing you know, I did okay, and they were asking me if I wanted to go to airborne school, and I said, "What's that?" And they said, "You're going to jump out of planes." And really at that very moment for me is when my life changed, bar none, right? If you had to hit the nail on the head and say everything changed, it was that moment for me, right? Because I realized that I was going to do something that was totally outside my comfort zone and really take me to new heights, no pun intended. Got to do that, and then the opportunities kept on rolling. And I wasn't going to include this part, but now that it kind of dawns on me as I'm talking to you, that was what it was all about, right? Raising my hand and saying, yeah, I'll do that. Because that wasn't me when I was your age. I'll be very frank with you, right? I kind of blended into the background, just wanted to do the bare minimum, and then something switched, some flip switched, and I can't tell you how it happened or exactly when it happened, right? But then I started raising my hand. I said, yeah, I'll go to Ranger School. Sure, I'll become an Army Ranger. Yeah, I'll go to Special Forces training. I'll become a Green Beret. And obviously those things were very difficult, right? That took me many years to accomplish, and I was just a normal guy. You do not have to be special to be special, is one of the things that I would take away from this conversation that we're having today, right? Normal people can do extraordinary things, because I'm not extraordinary, but I've been able to do some extraordinary things in my career. So with that said, right, I'll breeze through this real quick, but I've had the opportunity to have 5 combat deployments leading soldiers overseas in Iraq and Afghanistan. I've been in 7th Special Forces Group, 5th Special Forces Group, and I've led some interagency efforts with the rest of the government. And then most recently, before I came here, I was heading future operations for Special Operations Command Pacific, right? So think kind of deterrence as it pertains to China and everything that we're doing in Asia as well, which was a really fascinating outlook for someone who's primarily been focused on the Middle East and spent many of my years over there as well. Okay, if you don't mind just flipping the slide for me. Where's that me? Okay, I can do that. All right, cool. And this is just something to look at as I talk to you guys, and we'll talk about what some of these pictures mean too. But what I really want to talk to you about today for the next few minutes is people. Because through my 19 years in the Army, through the leadership challenges and through the wars, it really always comes down to people. Veterans Day is a time to remember all those who have served, and the holiday dates back to the end of World War I, only taking on its current name in 1954. Many soldiers from my generation and other service members, sailors, Marines, fought the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. In my line of work as a Special Forces officer, my soldiers and I often lived amongst the people, fought with them, ate with them, came to understand them, and built relationships. And while every conflict is different, understanding the people is essential. And within our military, relationships are built with other soldiers that last for life. Going through trials and tribulations with soldiers to your left and right who chose to serve is an amazing experience. And it's that choice to serve that about 1% of our nation makes today. And it makes it so special, right? The lessons that these amazing service members get in the military stay with them for life on a pathway to service outside the military as well. So what does that mean for you students? Well, some of you may end up joining, but most of you will not, and that's absolutely okay, right? You can still take away some of the lessons learned by all the service members of duty, service, and taking care of each other that you can do every day, now and beyond. So how many of the students in here play sports? Just by a show of hands, just to kind of give me some context. Okay, terrific. How many are in debate or take part in the plays? Okay, see a couple hands, awesome. My point being, right, a lot of you know how to come together as a team already, but don't limit it to the people that you know. Reach across and take care of the people who do things differently than you. Sometimes it's easy to get stuck up in our silos, right, where athletes hang out with athletes and actors hang out with actors and so on and so forth. I'd really urge you, especially as you're becoming adults, right, to make the effort and reach across to people that you don't know. And that's something that a lot of us service members have realized. If you look up at the screen here, right, so that's a couple of pictures from my time in Afghanistan, and then one was in Hawaii a few years back. And what I'd say to this, right, so the one up in the top right, that's me and one of the most prominent tribal elders in southern Afghanistan who I got to know quite well, Masoom Khan. And, he and I don't look like each other, right? Well, maybe when I was 10, I kind of looked like him a little bit, but that's a different story. But we don't look like each other, right? We have a different culture. We didn't speak the same language. He was a Pashto speaker, so I didn't get to use my Farsi or Dari on him too much. But we came together and we became friends and we took care of each other in a very, very difficult time for everyone in that region, right? So just another example of people don't have to look like you, they don't have to talk like you, that's okay, right? The nonverbals end up speaking a lot too, so take care of each other. I'd like to remind you of that. And then, as I get ready to wrap this up, right, I'll say we need unity in our schools, in our country, and throughout the world, and service members have come to realize that throughout their time in the military. I'd like to take the opportunity also to highlight one of your very own, because I was talking to some of your leadership earlier and said, hey, I would really like to highlight somebody from your school that is clearly a leader within your community, just so you can put a face to name, right? Because you look at me and you say, okay, he's been doing this for a while, but one of your own. So, Relisha, hopefully I say your name right, if you don't mind coming up here for a second. So, when I was talking to Andrea, she said, oh yeah, she didn't really hesitate, right? She said this is who, her and the principal would want to recognize. And I know that you are part of the ASB and you are a cheerleader and you're also doing track. There's probably a lot more to say, but I think I got 3 of those right. And hey, this is one of your own, right? And this is what leadership looks like. And it doesn't have to come in the form of veterans. It doesn't necessarily have to be military, right? We're one community in general, the United States of America, right? And so, I've been around and I've earned a lot of coins over the years and I've developed some of my own. So this one's very near and dear to my heart because it's a Special Forces one that I got to build with my people. And it's a really cool thing for somebody to get one of these, right? And so I want to take the opportunity to present this to you for everything that you do for your community. Yeah. And then I'll end with this. So I didn't get the opportunity to start with this. First of all, thank you so much to all the veterans in attendance, right? Thank you for everything that you've done. For those of us who are serving at this time, it's an honor to be surrounded by all of you, and an amazing job by the band and all the veterans who came up and performed the color guard today. That was really special, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So, as I leave you here today and take in the rest of the ceremony, I'd just like to say, spend this weekend and early next week thanking the service members in your life, and then asking yourself, are you contributing to the community as well and continue to grow? Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Lieutenant and Commander Scott, muchísimas gracias. Thank you so much for your words. Continuing with our assembly, now we're going to hear from our orchestra. They're going to perform Honor and Glory. After the orchestra, we're going to hear from our choir. They're going to be singing for us In Flounders Field. would like to thank the orchestra and choir for their numbers. The next part of our assembly is one of our oldest traditions at Fort Vancouver High School. At this time, we would like to recognize and pay tribute to the 58 former trappers who gave their lives in the defense of our country. Howard D. Akerts, Robert W. Alexander, William E. Andrews, Michael O. Austin, Russell G. Barr, Stephen Lloyd Bodie, John Albert Bradley, Edward W. Budd, Otto O. Burstaller, Harold Ray Carson, Fred Chapman, James Edward Cleaver, Richard Dean Cotterell, Raymond Kuda, Harvey Erickson, Robert Gillis, Thomas A. Gillis, Royce Edward Griffin, Alfred Edwin Gurr, Russell Everett Harry, Lucian Harvey, Roy Higgins, Walter Lloyd Holly, Tyree Jack Hobson, Walter Ralph Horton, Paul Richard Howell, William Jepson, Melvin Jonas, Harry Klein, Kenneth Knapp, Warren Kopang, Denise Lane, D. Lewis, Richard Lloyd, Warren Levi Magnet, Vernon Wayne Mason, Edwin Mathis, Raymond Danny May, Mark Eugene Meyer, Robert Miller, Jack Mulder, William Ollermeyer, Thomas Peterson, Errol Donna Reed, Lawrence Lee Rexroad, William W. Rayfeld, Dale Evan Richard, Robert Gerald Ritchie, Wayne Phillips Roberts, Arthur G. Smith, Quinton Stadiford, Walter George Sykes, Sheldon Siedendorf, James B. Thompson, Frank Hoyt Todd, Nelson B. Bong, Frank Winchell, Melvin Weaver, now the taps will be performed.
Time, march. Detail, top. Left, face. Freezing, arm. Post. Forward, march. Left, pace. Forward, march. Detail, up. Order, arms. Dismiss.
All right, thanks so much. Grief hits in really weird ways when you're an adult. Mr. Coster and I are both grieving our parents. So we're doing our best to hold it together today. So with that, thank you very much for being an attentive and polite audience. I am so proud of you. I'm proud to be a trapper. Students, you will be returning to third period at this point. Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, please join us for lunch.